But am I gonna not do drugs on this show? What are you talking about?
I hate to do this, but hello and welcome to Stars Every Week Forever, the podcast in which we watch one Star Wars movie every week forever. This week, we begin the 13th rotation.
The lucky number.
Yay! Lucky number 13.
With The Phantom Menace.
It'd be weird if we started it with anything else.
I mean, at some point we probably will, because I assume we're gonna do a release order watch series at some point.
Yeah, we've talked about it. I think we've talked about it on the show.
Yeah. Ben, how was your watch?
It was Star Wars.
It was a Star Wars.
That's about it. I had a hectic week, so like Star Wars was an escape this week. To give everyone an idea of the mindset I've had the past few days.
To give everyone an idea of how bad Ben's week was.
Yeah.
Star Wars was the escape.
Christ almighty. Chris, how was your watch?
It was fine. It was fine for this movie.
Damn, that's high praise.
About the highest I can give at this point.
I mean, you could get higher.
I don't know if Chris can get much higher most recordings.
Chris is sitting here
You
eating
would be surprised.
Chris is sitting here eating a cosmic brownie, and Chris doesn't have one of the proper mics. He has like a headset mic, and you're just watching him put it up and down, trying to eat his cosmic brownie.
Look, I'm considerate. I don't want the audience to have to hear me chewing my cosmic brownie.
Which again is like,
today? Oh, I'm sorry.
It is like chewing through fucking brick. So it was
How
fine.
are they so dense? I'd like to see how they make them. Why are they so dense?
I would not like to see how they make them. I know how they make a lot of animal product-based things, and I would not like to see how they make those.
It was fine. I had an easier watch this time than I have had in quite a few movies. Now, is that glowing praise? Fuck no. But
Listen,
it's
Jay,
something.
If the pod race got you through it, you can admit it. It's okay.
I'm gonna smack you. The pod race actively was the worst part of this movie.
Now you're just making shit up.
Oh, I'm making shit up that I've been saying since the first rotation.
You know what burns me up? And it hit me this watch. And I don't think we've talked about this on the podcast, or if anyone will fucking care but me or find this interesting or funny, but like, there was a whole generation, like it was a big part of that 70s show, you know, like Eric was all excited about Star Wars, and it's like, it was a whole big thing for an entire generation of people when Star Wars came out. It was this revolutionary thing. People fucking were obsessed with it. It's incredible. It was everywhere. This was our Star Wars.
Yeah.
This is what we... I feel ripped off, George. My dad got fucking A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. I got Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah.
And pod racing. And little shithead fucking 9-year-old Anakin.
I don't have a lot of memories from when I was young, but one of the strongest memories I have is sitting in the level floor front seats to watch this movie, and I'm slightly angry that that's one of the few, like, very, very clear childhood, like
really? This is the memory we held on to? Like,
yeah.
I have a manager at work who, anytime I even, like, in passing bring up the prequels, he gets visibly angry.
I mean, that's us with the sequels.
Like, he gets legitimately, like, rage-induced.
Yeah, because that's the thing. Like, we, as much as we bitch about the sequels, we're not, like, we don't Hulk out every time they're mentioned. God, we got done recording last week, and I walked out in the living room. My wife had the TV on. She's flipping through the TV guide, and she goes past TNT or TBS, whichever one it was, and fucking Last Jedi and then Rise of Skywalker was playing, and she was like, "Hey, do you want to watch Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi?" And I might have given her the coldest look I've ever given my wife in
I
our
did.
decade-long relationship.
Similarly, I did get off of this call last week, and I do believe Last Jedi was playing as well on the TNT marathon. I saw Chris and I are wrestling fans. About a week ago.
I'm kind of surprised some of you. I know we've never mentioned.
No, it's a big surprise. About a week ago, AEW's Dynamite show got like a random pop in ratings. And then it was reported that's probably because of the Last Jedi lead-in. And I'm like, things are coming together. It's all coming together. This is our fault somehow.
I was around a lot of family this past week, so I had a lot of shit going on in my personal life. And I'm talking with my sister. She's like, "Yeah, I watched Star Wars the other day." And I looked at her dead in the eye and I go, "I am so sorry." And she's like, "What?" And I'm like, "Nothing." She's like, "Is everything okay?" And I said, "No."
Oh.
One of my friends at work does know about this podcast. I just refuse to tell him what it's called so he can find it. I made the mistake of mentioning it offhand one day. He'll occasionally bring up Star Wars or like show me some Star Wars related TikTok. And I know he means well, and I know he just thinks I'm really into Star Wars. And I don't have the heart to tell him every time he shows me like a Star Wars TikTok, like, come on, man, please stop. You're killing me. You're killing me.
I don't want to think about this.
I'm in my off time. Don't do this to me.
Yeah, when I was talking with my sister, she goes, "Yeah, I watched Revenge of the Sith, the third one, and then I must have fallen asleep because I just woke up and it was like a different movie." I go, "Yeah, I know that feeling, but I know I didn't fall asleep most of the time. I just kind of end a dissociative episode." She goes, "Is everything okay?" And I was like, "No."
Yeah, I find when you say stuff like that to normal people, they
get very concerned.
There's concern there for some reason. I don't know.
Which I think is part of the process. Rightful concern that we do this to ourselves 110 episodes in. Oh.
I don't know if it says more about overall who I am as a person that there has not been a single, and I mean a single time throughout the process of this podcast, the rough weeks, the good week, and like any of the worst points in my life over the course of this podcast, there's never been a single time in which my wife has stopped for even a second and been like, "Are you sure you want to keep doing this podcast?" She has not brought it up like it as an issue or whatever. It's just such a casual, like, yeah, like fucking playing with the kid on the floor and like, he's rolling and stuff now. And she's like, all right, Daddy's got to go record. And, it's so casual. The way it's thrown around so casually in this household, like, am I already that broken of a person that to my wife, she looks at this and goes, I mean, it's fine.
He's not doing it anymore, I guess.
It's we made a bad decision and now it's normalized. It's normalized. Although I will say every time I'm at Ben's, whenever we say, "No, we got to watch this movie," his roommate is like, "But you actually don't." And it's like, "No, we have to."
I have had now 2 people actively tell me like, "You don't have to watch the movies." Yeah. I'm like, I don't, but I'm going to, because
my wife will call me out if we're getting close to the recording and I haven't watched it yet. She's like, "Don't you have to watch Star Wars?"
Danny is an ally.
It's fucking hilarious, man.
The thing that I hear most is just like, you realize you could miss a week and you would remember enough to get through it. I'm like, that's not the point. I promised the internet.
I promised the internet.
We literally have an episode.
We have an episode title, yeah.
We do?
Yeah.
Yes.
I was about to say that would be a great episode title.
I don't know. It's like when we started this podcast, we talked about it a few times. Like, God, it's gonna be really funny one day when someone discovers this podcast and realizes we've been doing it for like 6 years with nobody
Yeah.
watching it.
Yeah.
I'm of the opinion at this point, with how fucking committed to this bit we are, and by this bit I mean this podcast.
The
Yeah.
podcast.
It is a bit.
We are. I look at like the views on our YouTube, the likes or whatever, and like we at least would have people comment occasionally. That's dropped off significantly.
Listen.
It's to the point where like it's almost funnier now if we do this forever and it never gets discovered by anybody else.
It's
And
gonna
it's
be
literally
discovered by
I-
aliens
Yeah.
like 10,000 years in the future or some shit.
For all the
we've
work I
committed
put,
so hard. We have committed so hard to this podcast. We're here every week. We don't phone it in. We're still watching these stupid fucking movies. Jay edits like a maniac.
it's true. Thank you.
It's true.
I put so much work into the YouTube copies, and it gets 1/5 the amount of views that the actual podcast version does. Because, hello, podcast world, you're probably based on the stats that I have seen listening on Pandora. In which case, why are you using Pandora? Can you tell me why you're using
I didn't even
Pandora?
know Pandora had podcasts. until
I
we
didn't
started
either.
This show.
Like 65% of our viewers listen to us on Pandora.
How does that work with Pandora? Do you get 20 minutes into an episode of a podcast and it swaps you into another podcast randomly that you would not ask for or ever show even the remotest interest in?
I'm not kidding. I want to hear from our Pandora listeners because I'm fascinated by your decision to listen on that. Why so many of you are watching on that specifically.
If anyone from Pandora is listening, I'd love an answer of why you thought that was a good music streaming service idea. Here's the one song you wanted to listen to, and now here's another song.
Now 3 hours of random bullshit.
Yeah.
But we do, like, on YouTube, like 1/5, 1/6 the amount of, like, interactions we do on. And we put most of our effort into the YouTube, and it's like a self-defeating prophecy to an extent. Although apparently Weird Wikipedia did very well.
Weird Wikipedia did do very well.
I'm shocked.
By our metrics.
I'm not shocked.
By our metrics, Weird Wikipedia
metrics.
did very well.
It's
funny when someone like it did really well, and they go look at what is it, like 70 views or something
90.
like that.
It's
oh my god.
90.
Holy shit, we've gone viral.
I think our most like interacted thing on either thing is like the Downtime Dark Pop About Super Hour on between YouTube and Podbean, which would be all of our podcast stuff. That thing is somewhere around 160, 170.
Oh, Jay, I hate to tell you, our most interacted piece of media is still that TikTok of you not being able to read that. I'm trying to. I have to. This is how long it's been since I used TikTok. My iPhone uninstalled the TikTok app, so I have to re-download it real quick to look. But it was at like 300 and something last I looked.
Anyway, we're talking about like Phantom Menace, and maybe we need like a new perspective. Like we've been at this with only our perspective over and over and over and over again. Maybe we should like rewind it back to a time where the movie had just come out. I thought maybe like I don't know, for the next 6 episodes at least. Why don't we go over and find out what Siskel and Ebert were thinking at the time?
I think that's a great idea.
I believe this review, it's written by Roger Ebert. Let's go find out what Roger Ebert of Siskel and Ebert thought of The Phantom Menace when it came out. How's that?
I have a question.
Yes.
I'm gonna get laughed at for it.
Yes, you are.
Who the fuck are we talking about?
Siskel and Ebert. You don't know who Siskel and Ebert are?
No.
They
Are you surprised that I don't know who that is?
They're oh my god, I feel so old. They're very, very maybe like the nation's first like very famous movie reviewers. They had a show in I believe Chicago in like the 70s that got picked up nationwide at one point. And so, like, as far as, like, film critique, they're fairly famous.
Okay.
I don't know if they still are, but like, I mean, well, I mean, I think only one of them is still
They're,
among the land of the living.
yeah.
They at
They're,
one point were like the biggest reviewer out there. Like,
yeah. I mean, they were the most widespread. Like, they had the largest reach. Which is why I figure, why don't we go check out what they had to say about the old Phantom Menace. So this is Roger Ebert's review. It is a 3.5-star review, which seems mighty generous, but let's see what he has to say. If it were the first Star Wars movie, The Phantom Menace would be hailed as a visionary breakthrough. But this is the 4th movie of a famous series, and we think we know the territory. Many of the early reviews have been blasé, playing lip service to the visuals and wondering why the characters aren't better developed. How quickly do we grow accustomed to wonders? See, this is kind of what I love about Roger Ebert's writing styles. It's like biting against not only the people who made the movies, but like the people who are the fans, and it's pretty wonderful. I am reminded of Isaac Asimov's story Nightfall about the planet where the stars were visible once in 1,000 years. So awesome was the sight that it drove men mad. We who can see the stars every night glance up casually at the cosmos and then quickly down again, searching for a Dairy Queen.
fucking love Roger Ebert.
See, these are some deep cuts I was not expecting.
Oh, God.
Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, to cite the full title, is an astonishing achievement in imaginative filmmaking. If some characters are less than compelling, perhaps that's inevitable. This is the first story in the chronology and has to set up the characters who we already know will become more interesting with the passage of time. Here we first see Obi-Wan, Anakin, Yoda, R2-D2, and C-3PO. Anakin is only a fresh-faced kid in Episode 1. In 4, 5, and 6, he has become Darth Vader. At the risk of offending devotees to the Force, I will say that the stories of Star Wars movies have always been space operas, and that the importance of the movies come from their energy, their sense of fun, their colorful inventions, and their state-of-the-art special effects. I do not attend with the hope of gaining insights into human behavior. Unlike many movies, these are made to be looked at more than listened to, and George Lucas and his collaborators have filled The Phantom Menace with wonderful visuals. There are new places here, new kinds of places. Consider the underwater cities floating in their transparent membranes, the Senate chamber, a vast sphere with senators arrayed alongside the walls, and speakers floating in pods in the center. Other places, a cityscape with waterfalls that has a dizzying descent through space, and the other cities, one city Venetian with canals, another looking like a hothouse version of Imperial Rome, and a third that seems to have grown out of desert sands. Set against awesome backdrops, the characters of the Phantom Menace inhabit a plot that is little more complex than the stories I grew up on in science fiction magazines. The whole series sometimes feel like a cover from thrilling wonder stories come to life. The dialogue is pretty flat and straightforward, although seasoned with a little quasi-classical formality, as if the characters had read but not retained Julius Caesar, which might be my favorite line from the entire review there. As if the characters had read but not retained Julius Caesar, which sounds like the most George thing ever. I wish the Star Wars characters spoke with more elegance and wit, as Gore Vidal's Greeks and Romans do, but dialogue isn't the point anyway. These movies are about new things to look at. He's very biting in a weird go easy on the movie kind of way.
This review is starting to sound like us talking about the sequels for sure.
The plot details of embargoes and blockades tend to diminish the size of the movie's universe, to shrink it to the scale of the 19th century trade dispute. The stars themselves are little more than pinpoints on a black curtain, and Star Wars has not drawn inspiration from color photographs being captured by the Hubble telescope. The series is essentially human mythology set in space but not occupying it. If Stanley Kubrick gave us man humbled by the universe, Lucas gave us the universe domesticated by man. Another incredible fucking line. His aliens are really just humans in odd skins. For The Phantom Menace, he introduces Jar Jar Binks, a fully realized computer-animated alien character whose physical movements seem based on afterthoughts. And Jabba the Hutt, who presides over the pod race, fuck you, Ben, has always seemed positively Dickensian to me. Yet within the rules he has established, Lucas tells a good story. The key development in Phantom is the first meeting between the Jedi Knight Qui-Gon Jinn and the young Anakin Skywalker. I'll just skip out. We all know who plays who. Who is, the Jedi immediately sense, fated for great things. Qui-Gon meets Anakin in a store where he's seeking replacement parts for his crippled ship. Qui-Gon soon finds himself backing the young slave in a high-speed pod race, betting his ship itself against the cost of the replacement parts. The race is one of the film's high points, fuck you, Ben, as the entrance zoom between high cliff walls and a refinement of a similar race through metal canyons on a spaceship in Star Wars. Why is Qui-Gon so confident that Anakin can win?
Hold on. I need to point something out real quick.
Don't you fucking dare.
No. It's not what you think. Because this whole time, this review's framing it as Qui-Gon, like, putting his own, like, shit on the line for it. This isn't even Qui-Gon's ship.
Nope.
This is the Queen's ship. Qui-Gon is betting other people's shit on a 9-year-old racing.
I've seen so many people give Padme a hard time for getting annoyed with the way Qui-Gon handles the situation. And, people that defend it will say shit like, yeah, but he's being unreasonable to a child. It's just a child. He's putting in needless danger. All fair. But also, he's trying to sell the Queen's ship, her fucking ship.
Yeah.
She is so right to be angry at this old fucking man who pisses his pants.
Well, like, I would have loved to have seen what would have happened if he did lose the race. Because, Qui-Gon was doing this whole thing, like, oh, the Force, we're going to work, the Force, we're going to figure it out,
That was Palpatine.
I'm still a little sick. The Irish isn't coming out right now, right?
Our default say is Palpatine.
Yeah. I would have loved to have seen what happened if he didn't. The Force works in mysterious ways. I guess we're not meant to leave this planet or something. And
he really is that guy who's just like, oh yeah, there's a plan, and then like he is the light side version of Palpatine, where he's like, there's always a plan, and then like he's just really rolling with the punches.
Watching Anakin race that pod racer was his white knuckle,
His
the ship
white
is going down moment.
And for the first half of the first lap, Anakin does not move.
Yeah.
And somehow he still wins the fucking race, which I would say is ridiculous if most of the pod racers didn't fucking die in fiery explosions.
So many people died.
It's the will of the Force. The Force needed all those people to die just so a 9-year-old could win this fucking
I would
race.
love a shot of Qui-Gon in the stands, like just moving his hand every time a pod racer just fucking eats it. He's just like it's like the Force works in mysterious ways as he fucking yeets a guy off a fucking thing.
Back to Roger Ebert here. Because he senses an unusual concentration of the Force, and perhaps because, like John the Baptist, he instinctively recognizes the one whose way he is destined to prepare.
Oh.
The film's shakiness on the psychological level is evident, however, in the scene where young Anakin is told he must leave with his mother. I will say her actor's name, Pernilla August, because she rarely ever mentioned, and follow this tall Jedi stranger. Their mutual resignation to the parting seems awfully restrained. I expected a tearful scene of parting between mother and child, but the best we get is when Anakin asks if his mother can come along, and she replies, "Son, my place is here." As a slave? The discovery and testing of Anakin supplies the film's most important action, but in a sense, all the action is equally important, because it provides platforms through special effects sequences. Sometimes our common sense undermines a sequence. For instance, when Jar Jar's people and the good guys fight a droid army, it becomes obvious that the droids are such bad fighters they should be returned for a refund. But mostly, I was happy to drink in the sights on the screen, in the same spirit that I might enjoy Metropolis, Forbidden Planet, 2001: A Space Odyssey, Dark City, or The Matrix. The difference is that Lucas's visuals are more fanciful, and his film's energy level is more cheerful. He doesn't share the prevailing view of that the future is a dark and lonely place. What he does have in abundance is exhilaration. There is a sense of discovery in scene after scene of Phantom Menace, as he tries out new effects and ideas and seamlessly integrates real characters and digital ones, real landscapes and imaginary places. We are standing at the threshold of a new age of epic cinema, I think, in which digital techniques mean that budgets will no longer limit the scope of scenes. Filmmakers will be able to show us just about anything they can imagine. As surely as Anakin Skywalker points the way into the future of Star Wars, so does The Phantom Menace raise the curtain on this new freedom for filmmaking. And it's a lot of fun. The film has correctly been given a PG rating, it's suitable for younger viewers, and doesn't depend on violence for its effects. As for the bad rap about the characters, hey, I've seen space operas that put their emphasis on human personalities and relationships. They're called Star Trek movies. Give me transparent underwater cities and vast hollow senatorial spheres any day. So he finishes it up there with just a dig on Star Trek for some reason. But that is Roger Ebert's review written at the time for Phantom Menace. So he basically, like, his entire review is basically... I'm not saying
the entire review.
I mean, to an extent, he's right. Like,
It
was a Star Wars movie. What was he supposed to, like?
Well, specifically, I think we're on the, what was it, the dawn of a new era of, filmmaking, whatever. It made me curious what he felt like a decade or so later when the first Avengers movie came out. I looked that up real quick, and the title of his review of the first Avengers movie is The Westminster Dog Show of Superheroes.
Oh my god, can we read? I wish we were on another podcast so we could read that.
We'll save it for perhaps another podcast.
Do you think we could get away with just putting up a privated reading of the Roger Ebert review of Avengers? Just like us talking about it just for the people in our Discord? I would love to do that. Hey, join our Discord.
We have Discord rewards now, apparently.
Discord rewards is just being a part of the Discord.
God. It's a reward, not a punishment, Jay.
Yeah, that's we're doing this wrong. What do you...
No, you get stuff if you're part of the Discord.
I know. I'm saying it should be a reward, not a punishment.
Yeah, the big takeaway from that review, I think, is he's basically saying, look, what did you expect?
Yeah.
And I think he's also probably one of the few people at the time that is saying, okay, this is a clear indication that film is about to change forever. So look at the prettiness.
He was right.
Yeah.
I was going to say, which was very accurate on his part.
Far more forethought than I think a lot of people gave it at the time. I've also reflected, and I don't think Jar Jar is bad PS2 graphics. I think he's bad 360 graphics, because look at those dimples. He has dimples. You can't see me just pointing.
His dimples? How does he have dimples? He has a fucking bill for a mouth.
I mean, it's not so much dimples as it is, like, I don't know, just like markings, but they're perfectly shaped like dimples.
I've seen this movie a million times. There's no why can't I picture Jar Jar? Oh, you're 100% right, Jay.
Yep. Jar Jar's got those beating marks.
No, he does straight up have dimples. Like he's fully got dimples. It's weird.
I've stared into the abyss, and the abyss contains Jar Jar Binks' dimples. Jar Jar Binks' dimples have stared back.
God,
do cults go extinct? Is extinction the right description of a cult's death?
I think just like a cult dies out, but
Well, that's what May says in the movie. And once he said it this time, for whatever reason, I couldn't stop thinking about it for the rest of the movie, that he says the Sith are extinct. Well, like the Jedi, the Sith are a cult, so is extinct the right word to use?
Technically it is, because, like, the Sith were also a race, but
I
I
was
don't,
just
I
about
don't
to
want to
say,
give
yeah,
the movie
like-
that credit.
Yeah, but
Because this is way after the movie was a thing, that this was made a thing.
Yeah.
So, like, on a technicality, Mace is right, but I also think that's just him using the wrong word, as, like, everyone does from time to time.
But it's been, like, 3,000 years, maybe 3,500 years since the last of the Sith have been seen.
1,000.
No, I mean, this movie came
No, I'm
out
talking
after
about-
this movie came out after the Sith race were established in
Oh,
I
did
guess
it?
so, yeah. In,
like
yeah.
94
Tales
or
of the
something like
Jedi.
that. It was in the Dark Horse comics, I think.
No, I'm not talking about Bane, Ben. I'm talking
Oh,
about,
you're talking about
like,
the race. You're talking
last
about the
of
race.
Sith
of the
race.
Sith,
Yeah,
Sith purebloods.
Yeah.
Because they come back in the Old Republic, and they're also kind of written off in the Old Republic.
Yeah, they played a big role in the, like, early Old Republic. I mean, early as in early canonic Old Republic stuff.
Well, no, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the MMO.
I know, but I'm saying, like,
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, lore-wise, the race of
I
the
mean-
Sith were a big role in the
Can we-
early parts of the Old Republic.
We talked about this movie a lot. Can we talk about how wild
Did
the
we?
opening of this? We just
Jay
spent
read
like
about this
20
movie.
minutes talking.
Jay read about this movie.
Oh, I was about to say, it
a
was a
lot.
review of the... I guess we can... It's the closest we've probably gotten to talking about the Phantom Menace in a few rotations, so...
And we even had a big preamble in the middle. We just talked about it a bit. We talked a lot about this movie. I want to talk about how wild the introduction of the Sith to the galaxy is.
Oh,
Old
yeah.
canon, obviously, but
Yeah.
literally the introduction of the old Sith, like the Naga Sadow style Sith, like the original race,
The
from,
Sith purebloods.
the Sith purebloods. Literally, their introduction to the rest of the galaxy is some people stumbled upon their planet. They took them prisoner. They escaped and went to Coruscant to tell them, like, hey, we got stuck out here and we're worried about, like,
These weird
maybe
red
them-
people kidnapped us.
yeah. And then they followed them to the rest of the galaxy, and they said, there's only one thing we can do that these people escaped. These two people, these innocent travelers. We're going to invade Coruscant. We're going to invade Coruscant with all of our fleets right now. We are going to invade this highly defensible planet that we just discovered.
Well, but
And,
to be
like-
fair, that was following the Jedi Civil War, so there were actual, like, proto Sith Lord humans with them. So
Yeah.
they knew of the Republic, and they were waiting for this shit to go down.
Yeah, that's weird though, because you can't even count that, because like the proto Jedi Civil War with the original Dark Jedi, wasn't it that the Dark Jedi like traveled to the Outer Rim and they found the Sith and they like intermarried or whatever?
They were
Like, they were
banished
taken in?
to, I want to say it was the Unknown Regions, and yeah,
Yo-
there was a lot of, like, weird interbreeding. That's actually how the Sith die out. The purebloods is they were, like, bred out of existence. It's weird, and
Oh,
it makes
God.
me uncomfortable.
There's actually a scientific term for a race that's technically doomed because there's not enough of them to sustain the population and interbreeding starts, but I can't think of the name of the phrase.
Genocide?
No, because
A
nobody's
genocide, but slow.
nobody's directly killing off a race. It's
No, but, like,
something
legit
caused.
breeding a race of people out of existence is a form of genocide.
Oh, I thought you were saying they just Oh yeah, that's right. They did do that.
I mean, well, it wasn't exactly targeted to destroy the Sith. It was just to make, like, their bloodline stronger, which is arguably much worse.
Well, I have to read it because I can't remember if the Dark Jedi basically took them over or
They did.
Okay,
It was
yeah, then that's
they
genocide.
they became the head honchos of their culture.
For a second, I was thinking that it was just accidental, or maybe purposeful interbreeding amongst themselves that created
Well, it was
unstable.
they interbred with them so that their offspring would be more powerful than they would be if they were just humans with the dark side.
I thought we were talking like medieval Europe, kings and queens shit for a second there.
No,
Or,
no,
like,
no,
you
no.
know, 2022, fucking the where the hell is it? The Mormon place, Utah. Fucking
Utah.
Utah.
The Mormon place,
The Mormon
Utah.
Are the Sith the Mormons now?
Are
I mean-
all Sith Utah from Utah? Utahians?
But wait,
Yo,
what?
I'm just gonna.
What's going on with the Mormons?
Oh, Ben, there's a lot that you don't know about the Mormons, and I'm gonna keep it that way.
I mean, there's a
but
lot
for
I do
insanity-
know about the Mormons.
Yo, I'm just gonna say it. I hate the Sith race as an idea. I think it just muddies the idea of the dark side and the light. I think,
I don't think it does.
like, the Tales of the Jedi is cool, but the actual good stories, I think, are a few issues in when you get to like that 4,500 or like that close to Kotar period where it's like a generation before that, and you got like Exar Kun and Ula Keldroma.
I'm with Jay on this. I think I've talked about this on the podcast. There's nothing we haven't talked about on this podcast at this point. I'm in the camp of I hate any piece of fiction where one
Yes.
race is just automatically evil by nature
Yes.
of existing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what
Yes.
the Sith race was.
No, you're
Oh,
right.
just evil, you know. It's fucking orcs in every fantasy ever. Like, it's lazy. It's lazy
Yeah.
fucking storytelling.
The Old Republic got very close to solving that issue for me, or at least taking oh my god, I'm getting the full body shivers for saying this, taking a quasi Salvatore approach to it.
He dropped the
because-
moon on them?
I wish.
That's no moon.
In the Jedi Knight storyline, they have like a pure-blooded Sith, one of the last of their kind, join your Jedi Knight to betray the last of their kind, and also this mysterious emperor that has led them. And I thought, okay, are we gonna do something where maybe one of the pure-blood Sith like was just raised in a shit society, but is good because like there is no inherent bad in a race? No, they didn't do that. Old Republic, bad game. Bad game. Old Republic is with very
Yoda, calm down, would you?
with unmemorable characters and bad writing.
I just downloaded the Old Republic the other day.
I'm very excited.
I am not.
One day.
I still
One
have
day.
it downloaded.
You
I
have
never
it down?
bothered uninstalling it. Yeah, I have a huge ass hard drive
Fuck.
on my computer, so I don't bother
Fuck.
uninstalling stuff.
I'm the only one without it downloaded right now.
But yeah, I don't know. I do hate the issue of like, I forget if it was you, Jay, or you, Chris, who said it, like the stereotypical orc problem, because that's the most obvious one. Because like even Tolkien kind of realized when he was wrapping up Lord of the Rings, like I did a bad with the orcs.
I did a bad.
Did Tolkien realize that?
Yeah, in his letters, he did say that there were kind-hearted orcs, but it was mostly the society that they were in and the
Yeah.
circumstances of their creation.
Funny enough,
But it doesn't really like come off in his writing because it's just like, oh, let's kill all these legions of orcs.
I'm replaying. Well, I'm not replaying because the game never fucking ends. I'm playing Middle Earth: Shadow of War again. That is perhaps the grossest representation of this, where it's all right. You're at war with Sauron and his legion of orcs, and so you mind control his orcs to turn them into your mind control slave army
Oh my
to
god.
fight the other orcs.
What the fuck?
Gross.
And that's the entire premise of the story of those games.
Gross.
It's pretty fucking brutal. That's why I like that at a certain point, like, it stops being a mind control thing, and like they do actually have minds of their own to a degree, and you get to see some like more personalities and stuff from them.
I
I
don't
agree
know.
with Jay. Gross.
No,
Huh?
it's super gross.
Yeah.
The first one, if I'm remembering correctly, Shadow of Mordor, it's fully mind control, and then you get to Shadow of War, and it's more like recruiting instead of fully mind control.
We let
It's
the
still
bad
gross.
guys have agency and consent in what they do.
Well, when they're working with you as the quote unquote good guy, you know.
I don't know. I was a Dragonlance gal. I read the shit out of Dragonlance. I've
I
never
don't.
read a Lord of the Ring book, and I watched the movies at like 26.
I said this to my wife the other day when we were talking about it, because her siblings, oddly enough, really like Lord of the Rings.
I love Lord of the Rings.
I don't like Tolkien. I don't like anything Tolkien's ever done. I
Damn.
recognize that. No, it sucks. Those books, they're
Wow,
horrible.
we got some real hot takes going on
They're
right
fucking. They read like goddamn textbooks. They're fucking horrible. I appreciate
now. That's how I
that
feel about Dune.
like a lot of fantasy is due to Tolkien. You know, like I understand it's important works
Like
that
the
could.
big grand epic adventures to defeat pure evil kind
Yeah,
of shit.
sure. Like somebody would have gotten there eventually, but you know, Tolkien, sure. I give him the credit for it. They're dog shit. I got no interest in interacting with Lord of the Rings.
Oh my god.
The movies are all right.
This is
I
just
don't know, man.
breaking my heart tonight.
The show
I
might
got
be okay, but probably not. Who knows?
Boy, no, I
I
don't
got
have a lot
into
of faith in the
fantasy
show.
through AD&D, and the books that I had that was passed down to me from a friend were like a lot of Dragonlance settings, so that's how I found fantasy books. I've never read a Tolkien book. I said I would to myself over and over. I never did. Movies are fine. I like them. They're good. But I stopped myself from watching those movies for years because I was like, I have to read the books first. Now you just get to a certain age where you're like, if I haven't read this thing that I'm lukewarm on reading, I'm just never gonna do it. So I
Yeah,
might
the
as
movies
well.
are good enough. I don't fault anyone for not reading the books. I haven't finished reading the books, to be transparent.
Meanwhile, I read most of the Narnia
Trying to
books, and I
think.
regret that.
Oh god, fuck C.S.
I'm
Lewis.
trying to
Yeah.
think. Well, I mean, here's some hilarious trivia. C.S. Lewis and Tolkien were very good friends.
They were very good friends.
C.S. Lewis, you know, Narnia is always regarded as like, yeah, it's you know, it's a very religious symbology. Like he was a very religious man. Those books, you know, my wife being from a very Catholic family, those books are well regarded and well liked as
Yeah.
one of the few things that like heavily Catholic people will actually let their children read fantasy wise.
Well, yeah, that's
Tolkien.
why my mom liked it. My mom wasn't religious in her, well, she was very religious, but she didn't really go to church in later life. But growing up, she was a part of um, a pretty serious church, maybe too serious. But that's why she loved the Narnia books so
Yeah.
much, and that's why I ended up reading most of them.
Tolkien at one point sent C.S. Lewis a letter and basically stopped being friends with him because he felt C.S. Lewis wasn't religious enough.
What?
Did you not know this? That was literally they had a
No.
big like falling out because Tolkien felt that C.S. Lewis was not religious enough. You know, he had gone away from the faith or something like that. You know, which is hilarious when you think of C.S. Lewis being regarded as this
As
you know,
the
uber
like
religious.
super
Yeah.
Christian fantasy author.
He wrote 9 books that basically revolve around a lion that is the actual Lord Jesus Christ.
About Jesus's persona.
He could have stopped at 3, but he kept going.
Hold on, what is it? Yeah,
Can
Tolkien
we-
on Lewis's conversion to Christianity was reportedly disappointed that Lewis preferred the Anglican denomination to Tolkien's own Catholic faith.
I was gonna say, well, Tolkien was very
Woof.
Catholic, so
Yeah.
Like, Okay, whatever to that. Can we call the episode Jesus' Persona? Do you think we can
Yes.
get away with
That's
that?
why I wanted to wiggle that in, to be honest with you.
I don't know if we
me
can get away with
lining up
that,
a
actually.
title.
We'll have to dig
We've
into
had
some
weirder
metrics.
words hit us lead to our podcast.
I will say Tolkien's letter to who was it? Like when he was circulating when Lord of the Rings was being published in different languages across nationalities around the time of World War II, the one German whatever agency at the time was in control of like German media and things published in Germany was like, hey, we need a record proving your family history and your family's religious history so that we're sure that this isn't some kind of like Jewish, stuff.
Woof.
To which he basically said, I wish I belonged to that great race of people or whatever, referring to like Semitic peoples, and basically said fuck you to this fucking German agency.
That's wild. That's wild that was him young, and then older he was like, fuck you, C.S. Lewis. You and your 9 books about God aren't religious enough.
Well, I mean, also, like, I have so much weird trivia about Tolkien and
I've noticed.
and the Jews specifically, because like Tolkien and C.S. Lewis both had the dwarves as their write-in for the Jews, and Tolkien's story is about these people who were displaced trying to re-find their homeland, and C.S. Lewis just sent them all to hell.
Hey, look, I mean, I've been around enough Catholics to know that that's how they think that shit ends, all right?
I can just imagine, like, grew up in a Jewish family, Ben, like, furiously scribbling down these notes about Tolkien and his relationship with Jewish religion, just like...
This was, like, after I, like, if deconverted is the right word for whatever the fuck I ended up doing. Like, this is after I was, like, kind of separate from my very Jewish identity growing up.
I feel like in a lot of ways, like, I think my stepmom coined the term, and it's kind of how my wife thinks about herself now, is like post-Catholic. I feel like you've moved into a very post-Jewish stage of your life.
Anyway, to drag us kicking and screaming away from religion.
I'm trying to think where I started with fantasy. Because you bring
up
an interesting point, like, because it sure as fuck, honestly, like...
I mean, Star Wars, probably.
It sounds like a cop-out, but I mean, probably.
Yes, I think Star Wars is fantasy, but I mean more like sword and sorcery,
like
I mean,
classic fantasy.
You did just describe...
I
totally
know
get
I've
what
now
you're saying.
Also described Star Wars.
Medieval
I think
style...
I personally have described it as basically sword and sorcery, but
you're talking like medieval style.
Because like I never really read Dragonlance. I got really into the Forgotten Realms stuff. I read all the Dritz novels pretty early. I did read Narnia. I wasn't super into them, but I read all of them when I was a kid.
I read like 6 of them, and then you like at the beginning of the 6th, you're like following like a guy. I think the 6th, where there's like just barn kid, and it's like 6 chapters about this kid in a barn, and I'm like, all right, I'm done with this. I wasn't really into it ever anyway.
I got into like the weirder, more obscure stuff though. Like I started reading Stephen Bruce stuff. Not weird or obscure, but definitely shit I shouldn't have been reading as early, like fucking Conan stuff. The Robert E. Howard stuff.
Oh my god.
Fafhrd and the Grey Mouser. I mean, like they just. I never found Tolkien interesting. I don't know. I never found Lord of the Rings interesting. I think I made it halfway through the first book and went, not for me.
To be fair, it is kind of, because it is that cornerstone, it is kind of like the white bread fantasy, like, baseline, because it established all of those words that I'm trying to think of. Tropes.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't read like a large swath of fantasy books, but I did read like Dragonlance pretty religiously.
Well,
I also, like, growing up, I never read a lot, so I feel like now in my 20s, I'm trying to make up for that because I'm currently reading Terry Pratchett. I'm also currently reading Wheel
I read
of
a lot
Time.
of Terry Pratchett. Yeah.
I'm reading.
I wouldn't.
So much different stuff.
We've talked
Wheel
about
of
this
Time
on the
is another-
podcast about me
brick wall.
Yeah.
thinking personally you shouldn't waste your time with Wheel of Time, but if you're into it and you're enjoying it, that's
I
mean, also I have them in audiobook format, so it's not like I'm really like sitting down devoting time to it. It's just kind of like, oh, I'm working, I'll listen to this.
Since we're hopelessly off track anyway, I like Patrick Rothfuss's Sorcerer's Song. I like that a lot. I don't see it that You don't like it?
No, I'm gonna go off on a you hear a lot of people bitching about George R.R. Martin these days. You don't hear a lot of people bitching about Patrick Rothfuss, but I would like to. Name of the Wind is one of my favorite books of all time. Wise Man Fear, not as good. Still pretty good. Not as good as Name of the Wind.
I think.
Hey, Pat, where's the third book, you piece of shit? You can sit in, fucking guest star on Critical Role. You can attend all these fucking conventions. How's that new desk you fucking blog posted about for 6 months working out for you, huh? Where's the third fucking book, you piece of shit?
I mean, the worst part is when he pops up in public, it's either to play a D&D game or to raise money for charity. So, like, it's not like George R.R. Martin thing where he's, like, constantly talking about the thing he made. He's literally just like, I want to chill out and play a game, or I want to raise money for charity.
Fuck Patrick Rothfuss. Listen, I defended Patrick Rothfuss for a long time. But Pat, my man, you don't get to be one of the most vocal critics of George R.R. Martin not being able to finish a book when you haven't finished a book in a fucking decade, my man.
Holy shit.
We gotta stop talking about the fantasy genre now.
My lungs stopped working there for a second.
You're very passionate about my fantasy novels, man. I don't have many left. At least Stephen Bruce, fucking bless him. Nobody's reading his books, and he's still putting them out. He has been since the fucking 80s.
Nobody's listening to this podcast, and we're still putting it out.
Yeah.
God.
That was unfair to Stephen Bruce, who I love a lot. He's not, the biggest out there, but he does have a very devoted fan base. Oh, God. I had a point before I was derailed by my anger towards Patrick Rothfuss, who is a writer I love very much.
Yes.
I truly love his books, but I'm so fucking mad about this third book. No, you want my controversial hot takes and all that? I think fantasy would have been fine without Tolkien entirely.
I think we would have, like you were trying to say earlier, we would have gotten there eventually.
Yeah.
But Tolkien just happened to be the right person at the right place at the right time.
One of the things that bugs me, and again, I'm just piling all my hot takes to make people hate me more and more. I think about Tolkien kind of similarly as I do the Beatles. People talk about them like they were the first.
Why?
Need them for everything. Fuck them. There were people that came before them that were doing better shit. Fuck them.
This is like the third conversation I've been here for where one or more dear friends of mine just shit on the Beatles.
Yeah.
I don't begrudge people like them.
Friend of the show, Redacted, really love the Beatles, but it feels like every time I hear the Beatles mentioned around either of them, it's always people shitting all over them.
I have two friends who constantly, just because it bothers me, will be like, yeah, well, the Beatles are just a glorified boy band.
I mean, they are.
Yeah. They are not a boy band.
They are.
Ben, what the fuck are you talking about? They are a boy band. Like, I'm not dissing the Beatles here. I'm really honestly not, but they are a boy band.
They're not a boy band. I will die on this hill. I don't care if I'm wrong.
Then I'm sorry for your slaughter, but you're wrong.
I don't begrudge anyone for liking what they like. I'm not the guy who, anytime anyone's like, yeah, I love the Beatles, I'm not like, well, fuck you, oh, that's cool,
No, I know.
It bothers me when I hear people talk about stuff
mean,
so absolutely like as like the best,
As like
you know?
absolutely revolutionary.
Yeah.
Chris, this is
very
a very
much-
strong part of your personality too.
Yeah.
The genre-defining acts you tend
Yeah.
to not like. Like for example, I know you don't like Nirvana. You
I
really
don't like
like Nirvana. For
Really?
example,
I had a 21-year-old tell me the other day that Nirvana was like what started punk, and I almost had a stroke.
Oh god.
God, I don't remember what the rest of the conversation went. I don't remember how it went because I think I blacked out.
I think I was talking to my roommate the other day, and they were like some kind of punk band, Nirvana, and they felt me stare at them, and they were like, I know, I made a mistake.
I did the same thing passing in D&D recently with you, where
That might have been what I'm thinking of.
the two things weren't even necessarily interconnected. Someone was wearing a Nirvana shirt in a D&D or in a game that Chris was running, and then I said, "Do you think they were punks as a kid?" And Ben erupted.
That's exactly what I'm thinking of.
I didn't imply that Nirvana was punk. I was just saying, do you think they come from? And you were so mad. One of the fun things about doing this podcast is because it is so interconnected with our personalities and how we react to trauma, is that we learn a lot about each other. Like, we understand each other's ticks so much because of the show.
I had two coworkers apparently talking about me the one day because we all have playlists at work, and like mine gets played quite a bit because it's long. And apparently they were talking about music in general, and the one kid was like, "Oh yeah, it was part of that. It was like, I think Nirvana helped punk or whatever, this and that." And the other kid was like, "Oh, I think Chris would disagree with you." And he's like, "What's Chris gonna say? Something about people liking the Smiths. Nobody likes the Smiths, and Chris knows that." I was like, "Listen, just because it's true, all right? Even people who like the Smiths acknowledge the Smiths aren't very good, all right?"
People like the Smiths when the Smiths were making music. It has since been, because of a certain someone, even Smiths fans now hate the Smiths because of one particular fucking prick, and I'm not going on this rant. Ben has seen me go, hi!
Friend of the show, my child.
Hi!
Talk about Star Wars and overrated musical compositions. God, no,
But
yeah, no,
that's like my rant about the Sex Pistols. Fun fact, I fucking hate the Sex Pistols.
Wow, we are so off track.
Listen, like you said, we talked about the movie enough. Now we're here to piss people off with our other opinions.
I don't care. I don't care if the Sex Pistols fans fucking get pissed off at me, because fucking they're all pieces of shit.
I think
they're
similarly,
garbage human beings.
I think similarly to the Smiths, even people who claim to like the Sex Pistols will acknowledge they're not very good.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, the reason why people don't like the Smiths now is because Morrissey can't shut his fucking mouth ever. Oh, I have had this rant with Ben at least 5 or 6 times.
It's fair, and to be fair, I don't listen to the Smiths that much.
I think I have one Smiths song on my playlist.
I don't think I have any.
That's about it.
I've taken all of my Smiths songs.
It's a lot of Division, Bauhaus, Susie and the Banshees. Because spiritually, I'm like a 60-year-old man.
I was an adult queer. Of course, I got into the Smiths really hard. And of course, I found out about Morrissey. And of course, I got mad. Anyway, I don't want to talk about the fucking Smiths.
Nobody does.
Nobody wants to talk about the Smiths except Morrissey. To drag us kicking and fucking screaming back into Star Wars.
God, do we have to?
Do we have to?
Yes, because it's something that's been on my mind. I don't adhere to the common comment on fantasy worlds that if you have reoccurring characters, or if you have people pop up in some place, or if a place in a world is connected to a place in that world in the past later on. I don't subscribe to the idea that you can make a world feel small because of a reference or a reoccurring character. I just don't. I don't get it. I don't get that train of thought. But if there was...
I get it, but it's gotta be like a lot. Like it's gotta be overbearing.
But anyway, on that note, if there was something that had ever been done that would make me subscribe to that, because we were talking about Tales of the Jedi, the fact that the Yavin 4 temple that they hide out in A New Hope is a Naga Sadao temple, I think is so fucking stupid.
Yeah.
I think it's so stupid. It's just so try hard to me. And they only did it
like
because they wanted to write like an offshoots academy fucking book. I hate it. I hate that so much.
Well, and it's like, how many times are we gonna do this plot line of the Jedi Temple being built on top of some like super evil dark side thing? Because that's what
forever
in the old canon, that's what the Jedi Temple on Coruscant was. Like they couldn't sense Palpatine because there was some like evil artifact or whatever under it. Like really? Are we doing this?
We're going to do it forever, Ben, because that's what Star Wars is. It's cyclical, just like this podcast.
Yes.
Until everybody involved is in the fucking ground.
Cyclical.
Jesus Christ.
Except unlike Star Wars, other people won't purchase this and keep fucking running it into the ground even more.
It's the show in a way is a lottery because we've agreed that the show ends when one of us dies. So it'll be me for sure that dies first, and y'all will be like, I'm so sad. I'm so sad that we just lost Jay. But we don't have to do the podcast anymore.
We're gonna have the funeral and then the post SWEWF party. We're gonna have a day of mourning and then a day of celebration and revelry.
So much in the way that it's my fault that this is happening to you, my death will also be a sense of release, because I think the agreed upon decision is that you finish that rotation and then you're done.
Is it? I mean, we probably talked about this, but fucking peanut brain.
I thought when we first talked about it, it was until there was one of us left that it stopped.
Well, we had a conversation on the show where
we had an addendum.
We had an addendum on the show that was basically a mental breakdown where we decided no. No, it's when one of us dies.
I want to fight it because it is Star Wars every week forever, but at the same time, I'm not gonna.
No,
I have the energy.
It is established podcast lore now because
lore.
Chris specifically had a total mental breakdown.
That sounds right.
The 8th rotation that he was not going to do it after one of us dies, and I think that's fair. Which means I know for a fact, damn near for a fact, that I will do this podcast until the day I die. Y'all have outs.
I feel like we need to be knocking on some wood every time you say that. You're like tempting the universe. I'd be on my way to work and get hit by a bus or something.
Yeah, that's fair. I probably shouldn't say that as much as I do out loud, but like statistically, this podcast is this weird fucking thing where every week I'm fucking miserable watching the movie. I don't really want to record, but when I get on with y'all, it's a very enjoyable experience. When I sit down to edit, I will inevitably find something that excites me. And then I have to watch the movie, which is fucking miserable. Like, for example, we're recording this the week that, the week before the, second year anniversary comes out, and I just had a ton of fun editing together, like, a bunch of solo clips. But I'm also an episode behind on editing the podcast, so it's like this weird, like, some things excite me, some things I dread experience.
That just sounds like a good way to sum up life.
True. This podcast is, in a way, about life.
And
God.
death.
And death.
Life sucks when you die.
But speaking of death, in a death-gurgling rattle, This has been Star Wars Every Week Forever. Thank you for putting up with our
Thanks
series
for
of
listening to
15-minute hot takes.
Thanks for listening to whatever the fuck just happened.
Yeah.
I don't know about y'all, but I feel a lot lighter. That
really was
Just-
a decompression
It's
episode. We
therapeutic.
just went and just did not stop this week.
Therapeutic. Hit me up, Patrick Rothfuss.
Hit me up, whoever runs the Siskel and Ebert website now. I want to know. This has been Star Wars Every Week Forever. We love you all. Good night.
Love you all, except for you, Patrick Rothfuss.
Yeah, this is the episode where you went real hard onto Patrick Rothfuss, who I bet we could convince to come on the podcast if we really, really bothered him.
Well, it's not like he's got anything else taking up his time.
God.
If you enjoyed that episode, why not like and subscribe? Also, share it with a couple friends. Bring them into this hellscape that we've done to ourselves. You can catch brand new episodes every single Wednesday on Spotify, Pandora, YouTube, pretty much every other platform you get your podcasts on. If you'd like to extend the suffering, you can catch us over on Twitter.com at SWEWF. We post direct links to brand new episodes every week as soon as we upload them, and you can catch the occasional other dumb Star Wars take, and who wouldn't want that? Catch you guys later.